All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Bruce from the Epic Experiment Podcast, back with another deck tech. This week, we're going full on degeneracy. We're going Slogurk the Overslime. This is a Simic colored lands matter deck, and not only do they matter when they go to your graveyard. So Slogurk is 1 green blue for a 3/3 legendary creature ooze. Just trample. Whenever a land card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on Slogurk the Overslime. Remove 3 +1/+1 counters from Slogurk the Overslime, return it to your owner's hand. And then when Slogurk leaves the battlefield, return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. This deck is all that is wrong with Simic, because it just generates a disgusting amount of value. And sometimes you just don't win the game because there's so much effort to build the value engine that you don't win the game. However, I think I've struck a reasonable balance here, so we'll talk it through and see what everyone thinks. So, Slogurk cares a great deal about lands and getting them to your graveyard. So, let's talk about how we're ramping. First off, artifact-wise, we have ourselves the good old Sol Ring. And today we're running a Simic Signet instead of an Arcane Signet, but both those are artifact ramp. But we don't need much else than we have artifact ramp. We have so much land ramp, it is actually going to hurt. So we have, for instance, we have Dreamscape Artist. It's a 1 and a blue for a 1/1 human spell shaper. 2 and a blue, tap, discard a card, sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So this looks and feels slow, but this is exactly what Slogurk wants you to do. You sack a land, put a counter on Slogurk, go and find 2, put them into the play, and this is exactly what your deck wants to do. So this card plays perfectly into your strategy. We have Harrow. Harrow is, again, the ability, 2 and a green, as an additional cost to cast Harrow, sacrifice a land. Search your library for up to 2 basic lands, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This is exactly what you want to do. Sack a land, get 2 more, away we go. Loamcrafter Fawn. 2 and a green for a 3/3 Satyr Druid. When Loamcrafter Fawn enters the battlefield, you may discard 1 or more land cards. When you do, return up to that many non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. So, I can pitch lands to get things back, like things like spells are going to get me to put more lands into play. There's a number of those permanents around in this deck too. So this is a super useful card. Puts lands in my deck, which doesn't sound like ramp, but you're going to see how it might be later. We have something like a Entish Restoration. Entish Restoration, 2 and a green, sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead search the library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. So this is a Harrow, but slightly upgraded. So since Slogurk is a 3 power creature, by the time you sacrifice a land, it picks it up, and now you've got 4, and so you've triggered Entish Restoration's clause pretty easily. We have something like a... will come later. Life from the Loam. Life of the Loam, 1 and a green. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Well, so some of those things that made discard cards, now Life of the Loam lets us pick them back up, put them back in our hand. But this has Dredge 3, so that's a replacement cost that if I would draw a card, I can elect not to and instead put cards from my from my library into my graveyard, which would mean Slogurk could potentially pick up more counters. I could reveal things I want to buy back. There's lots of toys that you can do with Life in the Loam. It's notoriously potent. We have a Yavimaya Elder. Yavimaya Elder is 1 green for a 2/2. Human Druid. When Yavimaya Elder dies, you may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. And you can sacrifice it too. Sacrifice Yavimaya Elder, draw a card. So you can draw a card, you can get some land, you're just laughing. We have Wrenn and Realmbreaker. So it's 1 green for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. +1, up to 1 target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with vigilance and hexproof and haste until your next turn. It's still a land. Not probably what we're wanting to do with this one. It's the -2 here. Mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card, probably a land, from among them into your hand. And then -7, you get an emblem with, you may play lands and cast permanent spells from your graveyard. So if you can ultimate Random Realm Breaker, you get yourself an emblem that says, I have a Crucible Worlds. All those lands I put in my graveyard are now being able to be used for ramp. All right. We have some other ways that we're going to use here to get ourselves our lands into play. All of these cards are pretty useful. So Azusa, Case of the Locked Hothouse, and Oracle of Moldiah let me put additional lands into play. Since you're going to be burning through cards, burning through your library, picking lands up, putting them down, you're going to need to play more than one land drop a turn, and these cards enable it immensely. If I'm playing lots of land drops, Lotus Cobra and Tireless Provisioner are exactly the sort of cards you want to play for payoff, because they make mana that you're going to churn through your deck. All right. How else are we putting lands in our graveyard so that we can get them back in a bit? Well, we have Trade Routes. So Trade Routes is an old enchantment, so 1 and a blue for an enchantment. 1, return target land you control to its owner's hand, or 1, discard a land, draw a card. So this doesn't sound like ramp, but in a moment it will be. Golgari Grave Troll, this has got a big old fat dredge 6 on it, so same thing. It's going to dump lands in your graveyard, you're going to get them back, and power out more stuff. Ayula's Influence, you can discard a land to create a bear. The lands in your graveyard then get picked up by other things, you're going to be laughing. Foratog, this is 2 and a green for a 1/2. Atog with green, sacrifice a forest. Foratog gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You sack your forests, Slogurk gets bigger. You get them out of your graveyard, you use them to ramp, everybody wins. And last but not least, we have a Zurin Orb, allows you to sack your lands, turn them in, and make extra life with them. Super useful. All right. How do we get those lands out of our graveyard is just like this. We have a Splendid Reclamation. We have a Perennial Behemoth. We have a World Shaper. We have a Remnant Excavator. And we have a Conduit of Worlds. All of those things let us get the lands from our graveyard, put them back into play, so we get to trigger all those sweet triggers all over again. Okay, what else have we got kicking on here? We have got a whole lot of landfall triggers right here. So we have a Trench Behemoth, Avenger of Zendikar, Rampaging Baloth, Bonnie Paul, Clear Cutter, Springheart and Nantuko, Fecund Green Shell. All of these are creatures that care about a number of lands you have in play, putting more lands in play, or just using your lands in some capacity. So these things are just really useful value engines that are going to get you bodies and chonkers that you're going to be able to attack with and smash people around. Super, super good cards. All right. All right. Let's talk about some other ways that you're going to play and get your cards back. So we have AC and we have Tatyova Benthic Druid, who are super crucial to this deck because they both have a landfall trigger on them that where a land enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card. This makes anytime you play those extra lands from your graveyard or from anywhere else super valuable because you're going to be able to refill your hand, hopefully find more lands or find your ways to win the game. This deck routinely churns through lots and lots of the deck. So having these two cards in play to help feed your draw is invaluable. All right, they're so valuable, in fact, that you're playing a Court of Calling because you want to go find them. So Court of Calling with all that mana means you're probably gonna be able to find one of these two rather pricey creatures to make sure that you can draw your cards when you replay all those lands. We have some other ways. We have a Muldrifter. Muldrifter is just one of those cards I keep putting in almost everything as it never makes me sad. Viridian Revel. This is an interesting piece of tech against all those creatures, like all those decks that play treasures or foods or blood or whatever. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw. An opponent's graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw a card. So if anybody's playing treasures or they're playing food or they're playing whatever, you're going to be able to get value of feed your hand, draw cards. Elemental Bond. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Super little handy thing to put out there. Nothing crazy to it. Factor Fiction, same thing, just good. You want it. All right. And then a Blue Sun Zenith. So you can use this to target yourself, or sometimes in the late stages of the game, you've emptied your deck of all the mana. So now your Blue Sun Zenith is super good to be able to fire that off at your opponent's face. What happens when your things die? Let's say you have a key card that has gone to the graveyard. Either you've milled it or it's been killed. How do you get things back? How do we make use of other stuff? So, Timeless Witness and Eternal Witness are just super good at making sure our things get to come back. Our key pieces return to our hands so we can make use of them a second time. Undeniably useful cards. They never leave home without them. Augur of Autumn, very useful value piece. 1 green for a 2/3 with a human druid. You may look at the top card of your library. You may play lands to the top of your library, and then as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells on the top of your library. So just a great way to generate a little bit of card advantage there. Pretty good. Once upon a time, that might have been a Courser or Crewfix, but I like the Augur better. Surge Engine, this can just present itself as a really powerful way to end the game. Because with all that mana, you can give it abilities similar to Figure of Destiny, so it gets the ability to draw cards and be unblockable and just smash people and win you the game. Then we have a Scourge of Fleets. So this is really the only board wipe I have in this deck. When Scourge of Fleets enters the battlefield, return each creature your opponent's control with toughness X or less to his hand, where X is the number of islands you control. So, since you're going to be fighting so many lands, you're probably going to have enough islands to go bounce most of their opponent's boards back to their hand. Really valuable card. And then we have Nezahal, Primal Tide. 5 blue for a 7/7 legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. You have no maximum hand size. Ooh, I like that. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you should draw a card. Discard 3 cards, preferably lands. Exile Nezahal, Primal Tide, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is a really hard card to remove if you have cards in hand to protect it, so you can pitch things and then get the lands back, and makes it really hard for your opponents. Some other value things or ways that are useful in this deck that we probably need to talk about. Let's talk about how we get to not die, because this deck does run a little on the slow side. Alright, so Beast Within's a removal spell. Probably the best one Green's got access to. Pretty big fan. We have an Arcane Denial, we have a Counterspell, and we have a Negate. These are all the Counterspell suite that you're running in this deck. Could I run more? Perhaps. But this suite seems to be enough for me to make sure that I don't die to the most pertinent things. You know, that board wipe or that combo kill or whatever, so I can keep advancing my game. All right, then we have some other creatures that are going to help us get people remove their stuff. So a Meteor Golem, that's going to destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Reclamation Sage destroys an enchantment or an artifact. And then a Terastodon, because you're having so much mana, you may as well play the big 9/9. So 8 mana 9/9 Elephant. Whenever Terastodon enters the battlefield, you may destroy target non-creature permanent. Sorry, up to 3 non-creature permanents. For each permanent put into the graveyard this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. So those are going to blow up things that you need to get rid of. Hopefully, you're going to be loving that. Then we have a Blessed Respite and a Narset's Reversal. Blessed Respite, target player shuffles their graveyard into their library, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Sometimes this deck can get little close to the sun, and you can find yourself in a situation where you're going to get blown out pretty hard and mill yourself out. So sometimes it's useful to have just a little simple way to put everything back in your hand. Back in your deck, I mean. And then Narset's Reversal, blue, copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new copies of the copy, or new targets of the copy. So this, you have a really powerful spell, like let's say a Blue Sun Zenith. You fire it off at your opponent. You can copy it, put the original copy back in your hand, and the copy ends up milling them for a bunch. So then you can do it again to them. Sometimes that's what it takes to get a win. Super useful card. We also have some of the following other pieces. We have an extra turn spell. We have, Impart the Water Veil. We have Academy Manufactor. With your Tireless Provisioner making treasure tokens, this can make a whole bunch of other stuff. And a Swiftfoot boost to protect Slogurk. Okay, how does this deck win, you say? Well, it wins a couple of ways. First off, it can win just by beating your opponent's face in. There's lots of big creatures, and as Simic is prone to do, but Tachova, Steward of Tides, is my favorite way to do this. So it is green, blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, Merfolk Druid. Land creatures you control have flying. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, up to one target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. You could make a bunch of hasty flying lands and end your opponent's day very, very quickly. All right, next. Titania, a Protector of Argoth. Titania is a 5/3 elemental legendary creature. When Titania, Protector of Argoth, enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Whenever a land you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. This and the Zurin Orb that I use in the deck is really, really potent. So if you have this in your hand, you have a Zurin Orb in play, this on the battlefield, Zurin Orb in play. Before you untap, you can promptly sack your board, and then you can get all those lands as now 5/3s that can now attack. And this can be a really easy way to overrun your opponents. It's a little on the risky side because of the fact that you now sacked all your lands, and if you don't win the game, you could be up a creek. But that is a super way to do it. This is the other way that you turn those 5/3s into ways to win. So this is Combine Chrysalis. It's a green and a blue for an artifact. Creature tokens you control have flying. So all those 5/3s, they all become flyers. And then 2 green, blue, tap, sacrifice a token, create a 4/4 green beast creature token, activate only as a sorcery. I'm never using that ability, but I want my tokens to fly so that I can make sure I get my opponent dead. All right. How else are we getting there? Well, Walk the Aeons and Mystic Sanctuary together with any of those ways to draw cards and play extra lands, combo together like a ham sandwich. So, and they produce infinite turns, meaning you are forever going to be able to beat your opponent in the face and get the win. That's just a given. You're going to be able to do it. It's kind of sneaky if people are not looking for it. And Walk the Aeons is suitably weird that people may not see it coming. We have another infinite combo over here. We have Steelfin Whale, Bootlegger Stash, and Ashaya Soul of the Wild. So what Ashaya says is that all your non-token creatures are forests. And then Steelfin Whale says whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, untap Steelfin Whale. And Bootlegger Stash lastly says lands you control have tap, create a treasure token. So with Ashaya on the battlefield, Steelfin Whale on the battlefield, Bootlegger Stash, you tap Steelfin Whale, makes a treasure, untap Steelfin Whale, tap it again, make another treasure, untap Steelfin Whale. You can make infinite green mana with infinite treasure tokens and infinite ways, and now you have infinite mana to do whatever you please. And then some of those things have activation costs to tap and whatnot. Murkfiend Liege can help you just get there with more things. All right. The last one we have here is we have Jace, the Wielder of Mysteries. So this is sort of a lab maniac on a stick. So 1 blue, so 3 blue for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. If you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game. Well, that is not a very difficult step to achieve with this deck, and you end up getting yourself into a spot where you can win the game. People don't always like it, although I find it's eminently better than the Thassa's Oracle win line, but it's the same sort of vein. It's I empty my library of all the things, and I then go and can win the game that way. Super useful card. It's very powerful, and that's why it's in the deck, to win you the game out of nowhere. The mana base, this mana base can be as expensive or as cheap as you want to make it. Playing things like Evolving Wilds and Fields of Ruin and all that sort of stuff. Or you can play the fetch lands and do all that stuff to make as many land drops as you possibly can. On the whole, it's a pretty fun deck. I really like it. It's a sort of deck that I enjoy playing because of the fact there's lots of decision making to make, because once your hand starts to flood, you end up in a situation where you have lots of options, and I like options. Options make the game enjoyable. It can be a little tedious for your opponents, so I'd be careful. Make sure that you are in a space where your opponents are pretty down to play this sort of game, because it is a little on the slow side. But super fun. Can be built pretty cheaply. Not too many of the cards are very expensive, so you can do a lot of damage and have a lot of fun with your Slogurk deck. It doesn't have the same aggressive punch as some things, but when you get there at the end stages, like the last time I played this, I was able to get the Zurin Orb Titania Protector of Argoth line, and my opponents very promptly died to an army of 5/3s. So it can do a lot of damage and be pretty potent, and all for a pretty low price tag. Fits firmly into our bracket 3 again, because there's infinite combos here. Not a lot of game changers, but there's definitely infinite combos that can definitely turn people off, that people need to be mindful of. But they all take multiple cards, and they're all a late game sort of stage of play. All right, so that is Slogurk the Overslime. If you like what you hear, you can check out all the rest of the deck techs we have here on the channel. Please like and subscribe so you never miss them. We're trying to get to 50 followers before the end of the month of April, so really appreciate you guys sticking with us and joining us here on the channel. If you want to hear more, you can join our podcast each and every week. The link to it is down below, and you can find us on all your favorite podcast apps. If you want to see the deck's also down there in the show notes. It is on Moxfield. You can find all of our deck lists at the Epic Experiment Podcast as our username on Moxfield, and see everything we've brewed there. Thanks very much, folks. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, go a long way. Thanks very much. You have yourself a good one. We'll catch you the next time.